Are you needing a quick and easy patriotic project for the 4th of July coming up? If so, then this is the video for you. This is a fun little project that I put together. You can just use what's in your scraps, or you can use your favorite patriotic fabric collection. Okay, so let's get started. Here are the cutting instructions for this table runner. I put this out here so you could take a snapshot of this so you would have the cutting instructions. I'll also put the cutting instructions in the description of this video. Now please note that you need to cut one complete set for each star. So you're going to, if you're making your table runner just like mine, you're going to need 2 sets of these cutting instructions right there. Just from there up, just that much. I started the cutting instructions for that needed for the pinwheel. For the pinwheel, you're going to need 2 red 4-inch squares and 2 white 4-inch squares. You will need 4 cornerstones here. Those are 4-inch squares. For the flying geese, which make up the star points, you're going to end up with 4 flying geese. And if you'll notice, this star is a floating star. I thought that would be a little bit easier for those of you who are beginners or have difficulty, maintaining your points. This just makes it a little bit easier, and it goes together just a little bit quicker. For this, you need 4 rectangles that are 4 inches by 6 inches, and you need 4 of those. And then you're going to need 8 3 1/4 inch squares from blue fabrics, and I just cut a variety, as you can see. Now to finish the table runner, you are going to need 6 to 8 2.5 by 13 inch white strips and 6 to 8 2.5 by 13 inch red strips. And I put 6 to 8 because you can make it any width you want, and you can just decrease the size or decrease the number of strips you use to decrease the size. So that's why that has a little bit of variety. And so I just got my 2.5 inch strip bin and picked out some whites and some reds. We're going to start by making the pinwheel first. So we're going to take our background fabrics, and we are just going to draw a line right down the middle. I like to draw another line that's 1/4 of an inch away from that, and another line that is 1/4 of an inch away from that one. This will be our cutting line, and this will be our sewing line. We will end up with 2 half square triangles. Be sure when you put these together, you are putting the right sides together, and I'm just going to pin those just a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to pin those, and also on either side. I'm going to do the same thing with these 2 squares. You can see how I've sewn on those lines, and I'm just going to trim it right down through the middle. And I'll take those to the iron, and I will press them open. I'm going to press towards the red so they'll look just like this. Then I'm going to trim these down to 3.5 inch half square triangles. Now that we have our half square triangles made, we're just going to lay them out in the same order that we did these pinwheels. And I'm going to sew these two together, then these two, and then I'll sew those two to these two to create the center. I like to make that just a little bit bigger so that it can be trimmed down to be a perfect square. The next thing we're going to put together are the 4 flying geese units, and again these are floating, so these squares are only cut to 3 1/4 inch. What you'll need to do on the wrong side of each of the blue fabrics is you will just draw a line from corner to corner. Then a 1/2 inch away from that, you're going to draw another line. And you're going to do that on the backs of all of your pieces. Then you're just going to pin these. You're going to take one and you're going to pin it to the corner of each of your rectangles, your 4 by 6 inch rectangles. And you're going to sew on the line. You're going to sew right on both lines. Be sure you're putting these right sides together. And you're going to do that with all 4. I've sewn on both of those lines, and this is why I have you sew on both lines, because then when you cut this apart, you end up with an extra little bonus half square triangle, and then here's the first half of your flying geese, and you just press that open like that and they'll look like that. And your little half square triangle, when pressed open, will look like that, and you can just trim the edges off of it. And then you have fun little bonus triangles that you can use for a later project, maybe a border. Now that all 4 of those are done, you're just going to go back and you're going to pin the second star point on, and you're going to do the exact same thing that you did with this first one. Pin that on and sew on both lines, trim it, and then press it. When you are pinning the second square on, be sure that the little triangle is on the outside. Don't put this bigger triangle down there. Be sure the little triangle is on the outside corner. That will be important for you to do. I'm going to trim that back now that they're all sewn on and press it open, and then there's your flying geese unit. And now that all the flying geese are made and pressed back, and we're just going to assemble our block. And I'm going to sew that row together, then this row together, and this row together, just like I did the pinwheels, and then I'll sew this to that and that to that. Now the block I'm going to trim up to 12.5 inches. And this is easy to do again because this is a floating star pattern. With my red and white strips, I'm going to start with the red strip. And then a white. Now I cut these a little bit longer, and once I have them sewn together, I'll trim it down to 12.5 inches. Again, I like to oversize things just a little bit. And you can just cut as many strips as you want to make this the length, the width that you want. You may not want a great big long table runner. Maybe you just want a smaller version. I love this white on white right there. Now I've used 4 reds and 2 whites. And I think I'm going to leave mine this length. That will take off a few inches, but I'm going to add a 2-inch board. Yeah, so this is all that I'm going to do. I'm going to do the 3 and the 4. I'm not going to add or make it any longer. But you can make it as long as you'd like. Now to finish this up, I'm just going to sew these 2 together, these 2 together, these 2, and then that. And then I'll just sew the strip sets together. Okay, so there you have it. I had originally planned to make it longer, but I don't think I want it any longer. It's close to 36 inches, and I don't think I want it any longer. I had also thought I would put a border around the outside, but I think I'm just going to bind it. I don't think I want to add a border around the outside. I think I'm going to do it just like that, because since I made these floating stars, I think that kind of makes it look a little bit like a border. This turned out really nice. I had originally intended to make it a lot longer, but decided with just the 4 red strips and the 3 whites. So when you're cutting your pieces, be sure to think about how long you want it. I still need to quilt it and put the binding on, but I'm working on deciding between the blue stripe and the red stripe. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with the blue stripe, but in the comments below, be sure to tell me which one is your favorite. Thanks for watching, and until next time, have fun quilting.